Oh God, what is this? A financial media article that I mostly actually agree with. What's happening? Yes, it has happened, and it is on a subject that doesn't get a lot of airtime, I feel, which is all about risk concentration rather than diversification in wealth building. Hey, XenPuck here. Another day not working for the man. Oh Lord, it feels so good to me because I don't have to answer to anybody. Well, except for my wifey, but I do that gladly. Anyway, today I want to talk about this idea that maybe sometimes we want to go against the grain and the common wisdom of diversification in how we treat our money and actually put our eggs in fewer, if not only one basket, right? I just don't hear this talked about in the personal finance or wealth type of media much at all. So it is a surprise to me that when I read this article, linked below, by the way, in the description, frankly, it was like, damn, it's mostly accurate. So gotta give them some props. Okay. I'll summarize the gist of the article. Very simple, right? How did most actual rich people make their money? Well, it's much more likely to be concentrated risk in a few, if not just a single basket, rather than a big diverse portfolio that's recommended by financial advisors everywhere to the plebs, eh? I like advice that is a bit against the grain, and even more so when I finally read an article that isn't just laughably bad. So I'm going to dissect this a bit further, for shits and giggles, right? So if you like rants like these or just want to laugh at my uggo-muggo or whatever floats your boat, comment, like, subscribe, and share and all that social media buzzwords, because I am rich enough for me and I will be I'll be great regardless of what you do. Point number one, yes, you can make a lot of money more quickly if you have more concentrated risk. But the main thing to remember is that this strategy is definitely not for everyone, right? Or even most people, because, well, any strategy that has these huge potential upsides, wait for it, also comes with huge potential downsides. So yeah, all your eggs are in one basket. It can all go down to hell, too, okay? And that's why the vast majority of financial advice out there just concentrates on the average advice for most people, right? Heck, even just being in the stock market alone is apparently too much risk for most people. In fact, look at all the morons who panic sell the moment the market drops a few percentage points. And that's just in the span of like a week, a day or week or month, right? And those are usually people who've only lost like 5 to 10% in that short span of time, right? And if you only hold single stops, or if you're an entrepreneur with all your potential net worth in your own company, guess what? The winds of volatility would be more like raging hurricanes in that part of the world, okay? Human beings are much better at internalizing losses rather than gains. So for the average person who have generally a low risk tolerance, risk concentration as a investment strategy is not viable at all, okay? Unfortunately. That's okay. I mean, that's the reality of the world, right? Only the few can be great. The rest, they will self-select to be in the herd, right? We know this. Point number two. So risk concentration, aka the most common way to actually build wealth, is actually quite great, especially when you're starting out, right? When you don't have much at all. Remember, what we're calling diversification basically is about how to keep your money, which implies that if you don't have any money to begin with, well, there's nothing to keep, okay? So yeah, do the risk concentration thing instead, right, when you're starting out. Actually, the reality is that most people are already doing that right now. Yep, I'm saying that you are already doing risk concentration, at least in one aspect of your life, right? In the aspect of your personal development, right? Because all you have control over is mostly yourself, right? So get educated, learn something, be inspired. But in the beginning of any financial journey, getting a job, getting a better job, improving your skills, getting promoted. This is basically all the risk concentrated in your specific ability to make money, right? Whereas things like side hustle and trying to generate, avenues of passive incomes, those are the diversification methods, right? Your main gig, how you make the vast majority of your money, usually through a regular job, that is risk concentration right there, right? Most of us do it or has done it. It is as simple as that. That's relevant when you don't have any money to begin with, right? Don't even start thinking about diversification. First, get some skills so you can make some actual money in order so that you can later keep and maintain it. But first, you got to make that money, right? Now, finally, if I do have a nitpick about risk concentration in terms of how to build that wealth, it's this, right? It's hard to know when to move on to the maintain or keep your money through diversification phase in life, right? The reality is that every year where people use risk concentration to better build wealth is yet another year where there's a much higher risk of losing it as well, right? And that is in itself a big gamble, right? What I love about people talking about how great fortunes are made through risk concentration is that most do not mention that also great fortunes have been lost via the same method, right? I always need to bring up the infamous Warren Buffett example, or at least in terms of his timeline of when to diversify, right? And that is whenever he's dead, okay? Because he said, hey, for money left for my family in case of my death, just do index funds, right? That's certainly not how he made his money, but it is how his family will get to maintain and keep it, right? Only after the man is dead, right? Now, this is a man who absolutely believes in his own methods, right? And he's basically a genius in that field. A much likelier scenario is that builders of small to mid-sized companies who did already make a fortune might stick with that same industry much longer than they needed to or should. Maybe the industry changes or combusts drastically over time. It is just way harder for most entrepreneurs to look at themselves objectively and decide, oh, maybe I should exit at this point and enjoy the spoils. But still, this is a first world problem, right? It at least implies that, a person doing the risk concentration has made a fortune at some point to lose it. Now, anecdotally, I know risk concentration works because that's basically how I made my money, right? Certainly was never an entrepreneur during my regular work life, unlike right now, right? But I did work for a giant tech company and I got a ton of that company's stocks. I remember specifically feeling woozy when that single company stock price would swing, a couple of bucks, a couple of percentage points on a daily basis, and I'd be up and down tens, sometimes almost like 100 G's a day. Now, I consider myself to have a relatively high level of risk tolerance, and still, I did follow my own advice, right? Which means, in my personal case, I diversified the moment that I felt like I had enough of a stash for my own unpretentious level of needs, right? Sure, after having diversified, I think to myself, oh man, I could be even richer if I didn't, move away from that single company stock, right? Maybe that's true on the days when it's really up, I guess. But I know for most days, I sleep much better on the slow and steady incline of a boring, diversified portfolio. Yep, you gotta think about how you'd feel yourself, right? As they say, your mileage may vary. Cheers, à la prochaine.